Okay, welcome everybody to episode number 1 of the Spake Up podcast. I'm Shannon Spake. I'm really excited to be doing this. So I'll tell you a little bit of a background, the reason why I decided to do this and why I decided to do it right now. So for years, I've actually had people ask me if I wanted to do a podcast. And it was never a space that I wanted to get into. I was in linear television. I was used to having a rundown and hair and makeup and not being able to just kind of free flow and talk. And quite frankly, I was kind of nervous about being in this space. Would I have enough to say? Would I have enough background stories, all of those things to kind of make this happen? And I guess I didn't believe in myself at the time. Well, 1 year ago last week, my life changed drastically, right? So Fox told me that I was not coming back after 8 years of being there. And it was really a punch to the stomach. I had no idea. Obviously, Race Hub was going away. We knew that was going to happen. But I thought that I had positioned myself in a way that I would still be able to survive if either one of the sports that I covered went away, and I was wrong. So it was absolutely a learning experience. And I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, but I've never been through losing a job. It was the first time, fortunately, in 20 years. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what was going to happen. So this woman named Sharita Johnson, she was at NASCAR at the time. She comes over to me and she says, "Hey, do you want to do a YouTube show, a daily YouTube show for NASCAR?" And of course I said yes, because honestly, I didn't have anything else going on and I knew that I had to take a chance. But again, it was a very odd format for me, not what I was used to. It was, looking into a TV screen on my computer like I'm doing right now, not sitting in the studio with lights and a director in your ear and all of those things, hair and makeup. And quite frankly, my confidence was shot at that time as well, completely, utterly shot. I literally, if you ask my producer from NASCAR Daily how those first couple of weeks of rehearsal went, he'll tell you it was really bad. I think he was really worried about what was going to happen. But somehow I think I just kind of figured out that this is what I do and this is who I am. And I've been doing it for a really long time. And I found my confidence. And when we started to do NASCAR Daily, I realized that I really, really loved having conversations with people. I've been on this earth for almost 5 decades. I've been in the sports industry and television industry for almost 2 decades. I'm a mom of twin boys. I've had so many experiences in my life outside of just sports, right? Divorce, yes, divorce, going on 3 years currently in that. I know that's the first time that I've talked about that, but I will talk about it in this podcast. My sister's a recovering addict, so I'm going to have conversations with her. People that I know have really been through tough things and survived. And those are the people that have really inspired me over my lifetime. And maybe that's why I love sports so much, right? Because it's a story of inspiring people doing great things and really kind of pushing themselves. And I've had the opportunity and the blessing to know so many of those people in my life. So over the next however long this goes on, I'm going to try to bring some of those stories to you. So my first guest, get to it, Allen Bestwick. So when I did have people asking me over the years if I wanted to do a podcast, I kept saying no, but I would think about it, right? And I would say, who would be my first guest if I did a podcast? And it always came back to Allen Bestwick. Why? In 2007, I started at ESPN covering NASCAR. I didn't know television, and I certainly did not know NASCAR. And I didn't know Allen Bestwick. I knew who he was, but I didn't know him. And what he became over, the years that I was at ESPN covering NASCAR was really a mentor. He really helped me kind of figure out how I wanted to do my job, what kind of way that I wanted to craft who I was, and really kind of was a person in my life that meant a lot. Now, we have not talked in a while. We kind of catch up every once in a while, but we don't keep in touch like we should. But immediately when I called him and I said, "Hey, this is what I want you for number 1. He said yes. And one of the reasons I love Allen Bestwick's story is because he really is, I think, a story of an underdog. We're going to get to know him a little bit. You can watch some podcasts with him. You can see the interviews, but he's been in the industry for so long. And he has certainly had to deal with a lot of ups and downs in the industry as well, whether it be breaking his leg, when he was working in NASCAR many, many years ago, or of course, losing his job at ESPN. I think it was in 2018 when he was part of those layoffs, and he has really continued to fight. So I love the story. I love Allen, and I'm so excited to be able to talk to him in this longer format and bring you the story. All right. So I thought about how to kind of structure this interview, because that's what you do when you're a reporter, right? You have a sort of a storyline, how we're going to do it, start, middle, end. And there's so many layers to Allen Bestwick. By the way, hi, Allen. Did you see my shirt, by the way?
Yes, I did.
It's spelled differently, I know, but it's close enough. It's the thought that counts. There's so many layers to you in your career, in what you've done, off TV, on TV, and certainly so many layers to the relationship that I have with you. I thought the only logical place to start would be like 2007. So that's when you and I first started working together at ESPN. You were there longer than I was, but that time, I think from 2007 to 2014, for me, the way that I describe it was painfully beautiful. And I'll tell you why, but I want to get your description of that time.
Probably similar, but the pain level was less.
Okay.
I was going through a divorce at that time. And so, there's always pain involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
Work-wise, life-wise, lifestyle-wise, everything I ever dreamed of, going to big places, doing big things, working with great people, having a lot of fun, the constant movement, the pace of life, time of my life. And so, on the balance of it all, couldn't ask for more.
See, it was painful to me because of that, because of the travel Thursday night to Monday morning. I don't think people realize, like, we weren't taking charters. We were there, and maybe my situation was a little different because I was on the news and info side. So I was there all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday for like 2 minutes of television. And until I got over to the side with you guys on the broadcast side, it was painful, but it was beautiful because, man, did we love each other or what?
Yeah.
The group that we had. How cool was that?
Well, that's the whole thing about the business we've been in, right? Nobody makes TV alone, right? Even this that you're doing, right? You've got people here that are working as a team with you to make it happen. Nobody does television alone. And I've been blessed through my entire career to be part of some really amazing and special teams of people. I can go back to the MRN days.
Yeah.
What a group of people, and what a time, and what a product we put out, and the laughs we had together. Oh my goodness. And then, on to NBC 1.0. What a group of people, and what the special times and things we did. And then the ESPN group. Oh my goodness, did we have some fun, right?
Oh my goodness.
And the way life changes along the way, when I started at MRN, I was the new guy, and I was learning from people. And by the time we got to ESPN, I'd been around for a little while. Now I had a lot of young people around me.
Like number
you.
one. Yeah.
You and Jamie and some other people, and sharing those experiences together. It just was so full of energy that, when you run at that pace of life, it's easy to miss a lot of things that are happening around you, the pain part of it. Mm-hmm. At the same time, when it slows down, it doesn't just tap the brakes. It comes to a screeching halt. And then it's like, okay,
it's like getting off a Gravitron. That's how my boyfriend described it. It's like you're just like trying to find your wits about you. What did you think about the group, right? Because there were a lot of people in that group. I think I have a picture from 2006 where we were at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it was like, Brad Doherty. Oh, that's just you and me. That's in 2007 too. I love that picture because that's when we hosted the Busch Banquet.
Yeah.
But this one right here, there's a lot of people in that picture that had not done NASCAR television. It was sort of like a hodgepodge of people. And then there's the veteran you, and of course, Dr. Jerry Punch as well. What did you think about that group?
Well, that's the whole fun of a team, is stepping back, looking at everybody in the group, okay, what are his or her strengths? What are his or her weaknesses? How can I make sure to put that person in a position to play to their strengths and learn to shore up the weaknesses a little
Hmm.
bit? So when
Hmm.
you get to be kind of the older people in the group, you start to think about things like that in that way. And at the same time, make sure everybody understands, hey, this takes all of us, right? It takes all of us to get this done, and we can have some fun while we're doing it. So you look at that group and
It's
different
a good group.
personalities, right? Oh yeah, top to bottom. But the quality of the work that we did and the amount of laughs that we had along the way and propping each other up through some of the draggier times, um, just really special. And that's what you want, whether you're building a race team, whether you're building a sports team, whatever it is, that's what you want, right? Group of people that truly like and love each other. And
Yeah.
that elevates the quality of the work.
Because I don't think people realize we would get off air on Sunday and none of us could get out Sunday night. And
Yeah.
so we would hit the bar
Yeah.
no matter what. And we like, even if we had like a 6 a.m. flight out, I remember we'd be there till like 4 and like, head straight to the airport. I'd be on the airplane sleeping. That was before like big time social media. No one
Yeah.
was posting the pictures. Like we all would, and people don't do that anymore. When I go on the road for any kind of sports, you get off air and people go to bed, people shut it down. And you had your 50th birthday, right? I think it was your 50th birthday when you were on the road with us. And
Yeah.
so I'm close to 50. And so that's what I think. Like, I'm like, these guys were going out and like drinking with us till pretty late at night when they were my age. And I can't do that right now.
It was a special group, and
It was so fun.
we had a lot of laughs, and
Remember the Richmond hurricane
the
when it got
hurricane
rained
party.
out?
Yeah, we basically drank a hotel out of liquor during the hurricane because there wasn't anything else to do.
On ESPN, by the way.
Yeah.
Or actually, was it on Dale Jarrett and Brad Doherty, I think?
There were a lot of us that they came to for contributions that kicked in some cash to the kitty, and we used up the network budget. We used up the budget. The rest of us kicked in, and we're still in need of some more.
It was so fun though. And
Now let's wait a minute. Now you got to tell the rest of that story, right?
What was
we all get to Richmond, Virginia, and we're supposed to do races Friday night, Saturday night. And as soon as we get there, they say, yeah, there's a hurricane coming. We're going to shut everything down. We're going to run both races on Sunday. Well,
wasn't it the first race in the playoffs or the last? It was the cutoff one, maybe.
It was in September. So whatever they called it then.
Yeah.
The chase, right? Wasn't that the chase then? Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we got 100 people in a hotel in downtown Richmond with nothing to do for 48 hours. They literally won't let us into the racetrack until Sunday morning. And we had a group within the television crew that was a band, and a pretty good one. So they brought all their equipment. So we got a room at the hotel, and the band set up, and we played, and we had a hurricane party on Friday night. And everybody had all day Saturday to sleep it off so we could go and do both races back to back on Sunday.
Full disclosure, Jamie Little and I, we did not show up to that party because we were actually at this infamous party that happened in the infield at the driver motorhome lot at Richmond, because we went over and had we started drinking with like Jimmy and Marty Smith and stuff. And you got to remember, like the drivers also have the night off as well. So it turned into a huge party in the Richmond infield. And I remember waking up the next day, Alan, and it was beautiful outside.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if they call us and make us do this race today, there's no way that I'm going to be able to function because it was quite the night.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was quite the night. But that was what I'm talking about. Like we truly had like some great memories. I wanted to bring this clip up because when I talk about it being beautifully painful or painfully beautiful, one of the moments that I remember most was right here. And I remember this moment because I was under so much pressure as like a female in the NASCAR garage to be taken seriously. I remember I was so upset, and Tony Stewart was using my pack. And you threw down and you were like, let's show, can we roll it so we can see? You're like, let's show what TV looks like. And Tony's using my pack at this time. And they pull out, you can hear your voice a little bit. They pull out and
see, Tony's actually borrowing Shannon's headset there.
There I am. And I'm so annoyed right now. Because I knew he was going to do that, put his arm around me.
And the fun part was, right? You're letting everybody in on the gag that we all know that nobody else does.
Yeah.
and you can't hear what's being said.
That's
right.
right.
And so you're wondering, okay, what's going on? And we're just, hey, you've heard me say this how many zillion times? People can't have fun watching television if you don't have fun making television, right?
Yeah.
And we made a fun moment out of that. That was
I was mad though.
that
I'll
was
tell you
awkward,
why. Yes, because I'll tell you, Jamie Little and I, we would wear suits in the garage. We were buttoned up. We did not want anyone to take us. Like, we want to look like a woman, right? We want to be taken seriously. And I remember, and it was like 2008. So I didn't really know Tony that well, being really uncomfortable and just thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to think that this was inappropriate and I shouldn't have done this. And that was the pressure that I felt at that time, but also the pressure that you, as one of my mentors, and I've told you this before, and this is the reason that I'm having you on this, really kind of helped me grow through.
Yeah. And so, you take that moment and you were so angry, and then you go back and you look at it and you say, hey, you know what? That was kind of fun television, wasn't it? And this, it wasn't about putting me down. This is just the moment,
That's right.
And
that's right.
And it's getting a network television job is an accomplishment, right? It's an accomplishment. There's a lot of fish in the pond. And to get to that point in your life, that's an accomplishment. And yes, the pressure is real. There's a lot of pressure. You want to succeed. You want to be good. You want to make your name. And then you get a little older and you look back and you say, you know what? I didn't have to put that much pressure on myself because I wouldn't have been there if I wasn't good enough.
Well, I wasn't good enough. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I remember it took me an hour to read 4 tracks for a SportsCenter News of the Day thing back in 2007. So I was not good. But what ESPN provided me was people like you to really kind of like take me along. People like you and Dave Burns and Marty Smith, even though Marty was young and green in TV as well, he had a lot of influence in the NASCAR garage. And it gave me a lot of reps. Of reps.
Yeah.
And it's that 10,000 hour thing. It's you right now, right? 10,000 hours. It's funny because I do want to, like, when I talked about kind of layering this interview, this was sort of the back part of it, but I'm going to get to it now because when people think about you, Allen, they think about NASCAR, right? They think about MRN, he's in NASCAR forever, but it is incredible the amount of things that you've done, right? Now IndyCar, tennis, college football, PBR. Have I missed? Is there anything else sprinkled in there?
A little bit of everything. College basketball. I did a rodeo or two.
That's PBR, right? Am I getting that wrong?
No, that's a whole different thing. PBR is just the bull riding. There's another 7 events that go into a rodeo. So you're doing 8 events that you've probably never actually seen before in your life.
How in the world was that for you to prep for rodeo?
It was challenging.
My gosh.
It was very challenging. There's a terminology. There's, who are the players? Who are the people? And what I was doing was kind of like the U.S. Open qualifying of rodeo. So you're going to these feeder tournaments and there's all these people there and you're looking at your partners who are involved in this thing, 24/7, 365. And what do you know about this person? I don't know. Never seen her before. So
yeah. Allen Bestwick, the rookie. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was only a few years ago.
Wow.
But that's also the fun of it. Part of why live television and sports are fun is because every day is a blank sheet, right? Every day is a new competition. Every day there are stories, there are people, there are different things that are going to hit you in the face.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle it? Are you prepared? What do you do? And that's what I love about live television and live sports television, particularly is I call it kind of walking that energy tightrope, and getting it right and not falling off.
I love that.
Yeah, that's an adrenaline, right? There's an adrenaline to this live TV thing, and I love the challenge of getting it right.
Yeah, which is very rare, right? Because all of us are so hard on ourselves. We always walk away and say we could have done it better. I did have somebody one time talking to me about jumping out of an airplane. And I was like, I'll never jump out of an airplane. And they said, well, how will you ever experience like that adrenaline rush? And I was like, every time that red light comes on,
Yeah.
every single time that red light comes on, I feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the fun of it. That's the beauty of it.
And I'm gonna all you up and coming reporters or anchors, I'm gonna bestow on you some Allen Bestwick knowledge that he gave me very early on, and I think I'm hoping that you know what I'm talking about. It's like, how do I cover different sports? What do I do? How do I approach this? And you told me what? Are you gonna remember it?
Probably not.
Okay, you told me just follow the ball.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That was your advice to me. And I think about that all the time, Alan, because obviously I've covered different sports. And I don't know if I understood what you meant when you said it back in 08, 09, whatever. But yeah, it's like, just follow the ball, because that's where the story is going to be.
Yeah. And to build on that further, right? If you're covering a football game or a basketball game, 90% of the story is where the ball is.
That's right.
And everything else is filling in around the edges. In a race, where's the ball? Is it the leader? Is it 5th place? Is it 10th place? Is it on pit road? Is it back at the medical center? Where's the ball in a race? And you have to make that decision every second of every minute of the telecast. Where's the ball? A golf tournament. Where's the ball? Is it the leaders? Is it some guy making, where is the ball? And so that, and you can think about that in the context of any sport that you want to, but the ball is the story. Figuring out where the ball is your job.
Yep. I love it. It's so true, because there are different times where maybe the ball might be under. When I was covering football, the quarterback might have the ball, but what about the secondary and the wide receiver that are downfield? That's where the story is. And it's finding out where your story is located. And I've remembered that my entire career. And that is because of you, my friend. Much of what you've done, tennis, PBR, college football, IndyCar, probably wouldn't have happened if NASCAR hadn't lost, if ESPN hadn't lost NASCAR. And certainly because of what happened in the month of April 2017. Of course, that's when you got the call from ESPN. You were part of sort of all those layoffs. Do you remember the phone ringing and thinking, oh shit, here it is?
Yep.
Was it early in the day? Was it like, because we're following it. We knew that this was happening this day. It was sort of a weird way that they approached it. So how was that experience for you?
Yeah, pretty crappy, if you want to know the truth. I was sitting at my little kitchen counter breakfast bar at my place in Florida. And, you see on social media, somehow these reporters all know that these things are happening today. And then the phone rings and you look down and it's 860-766 or whatever. And okay, that's an ESPN number. And my first 2 words to myself were, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you can say it. I said it.
Crap.
Crap.
Yeah. And you answer the phone and it's one of the senior vice presidents and it's somebody you've known for a long time and have a good relationship with. And you can tell that he has a script he's been given and there's an attorney or someone sitting there with him that won't let him deviate from that script. And
that's interesting. I didn't think about that when I got the call from Fox, that there may have been someone from legal sitting there.
Oh yeah.
Having sitting there. I didn't even consider that. That's interesting.
It was, and I had friends that were part of the first and second rounds of layoffs there that were handled. I'll call it in an unfortunate way.
Yeah.
Like a guy that worked for the company for 30 something years being escorted from the building and told they'll go through his office and decide what's his and what's not and send it to him. So here's, you're having this phone call. I don't even think it lasted a minute and a half, and there are a lot of things that unfolded and a lot of conversations that unfolded afterwards. But basically, here was my reaction. Okay. 2.5 years ago, I had a choice to make of whether to stay with you guys or go with somebody else. And
you stayed.
The person in charge at the time said, hey, we need you. Stay with us. We'll make it fun for you.
Yeah.
And he did. I got to do things I never dreamed of in my life. But then he moved on. And now all of a sudden you're getting this phone call saying, yeah, we're going to take you off the air and pay you for the next few years. And you find out what it's all about. It's basically a financial maneuver to make Disney's spreadsheet look better for the following year. They're going to do all these funky things that somehow they're allowed to do and write everybody's salaries off to previous fiscal years.
Because you couldn't work during that time, right?
Right.
How many years did you have left on your contract?
2.5.
Because I know someone that had like 9 years left on their contract that had just signed like a huge deal, and same thing, right? That I know that there was a lot of interesting things that during that time about what you could and couldn't do.
And anybody else that you wanted to talk to about a job knew that they could bargain basement with you because, you got no leverage. You got no place to go. So, but, the end result was it was gut wrenching. Yeah. It was heartbreaking. And I still had to go to work because they've told me, yes, but we still need you to do Indy. So now I've got to show up for the month of May for an organization that just told me we don't want you anymore. And
you're like you could go rogue on air and just like say anything you want.
Well, it's the rest of your career.
That's right.
But dealing with everyone that you deal with, from drivers to crew chiefs to mechanics to people in the TV crew and so on, and over and over and over and over and over again, you've got to have this same conversation with everybody, which is, man, that sucks. I hate that for you. And the thought that's going through your brain is, you hate it for me, but you've got a job June 1st and I don't.
Yeah.
And it's would I rather have been there than not? Of course, but it was difficult. It was awkward. And I'd like to tell you I'm over it, but I'm probably still not.
I get it. I'm a year removed from being told from Fox that I wasn't coming back. And I remember, I got really drunk. I had to do a podcast immediately afterwards with a woman named Carla who works on the CW. And I had to do, I literally, my phone rings, it's who, and I didn't think that that's why they were at all. Race Hub had gone off the air, I think 24 hours prior. And I did not think at all that that's why. Not even, I had no way. And I get the word, and I have to literally 2 seconds later jump on a podcast, and I have to do this podcast or an interview with somebody. And it's funny because Larry McReynolds says to me, "You looked really upset about Martin Truex Jr. retiring. You looked really." I'm like, "You have no idea."
Yeah.
But then, it's a really scary thing because you feel like I feel like you buy into this idea that you're part of a family. And again, you get back to don't take it personal, but you do take it a little personal. And I do think that there's holy crap, this is what I thought I was going to do the rest of everything, right? This was everything. And now you've got to rethink it. I also, I buy into the theory, and you and I talked a little bit before we started, is I got to do it. Not oh my gosh, I'm no longer doing it. I got to do NFL for 8 years. That's longer than some players' careers. Yeah. When I was at ESPN, I got to do 6 Duke Carolina games. When I was, I got to host, I was able to host pre-race shows on Fox Sports. Those are valuable things and memories that I take, and I don't go, oh my gosh, I don't get to do this anymore, because I know that there are things that are upcoming for me. Getting to do a full season of the Hornets was so amazing. Doing this, sitting here with you, having this conversation right now here with you would not have happened if I was still doing Race Hub and still doing NFL. And so those are kind of the things that I look at and go, there's a reason.
It's hard. All of us that do this, do it because we love it.
Yeah.
For me,
that's another thing. I wasn't ready to stop. When it stops, you're like, oh crap, I'm not ready for it to stop.
Right. So all I have ever wanted to do my entire life, as far as I can remember, was be the guy on the radio or the guy on the television. From the time I've been old enough to remember. And I've lived that dream, but I've been around for a while, but I'm still relatively young. I'm in good shape. I don't think my work stinks.
Your voice still sounds beautiful.
Thank you. But the business around you changes.
It does.
And, one of the things that you have to have perspective on is we all get to live the dream, but the dream doesn't always have a fairy tale ending. The dream doesn't have, for almost all of us, the dream doesn't have the ending where we get to say, okay, I'm retiring at the end of this year, and the last broadcast is the big send off. And think of how many people in this business you can think of that have actually done that.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question.
A handful, maybe.
Isn't that, that's great, but also then do you have the thought that you did the same thing for 20 years or 40 years or 50 years, and you worked with the same people and went to the same place? And yes, that's great. I'm sure the salary is great. I'm sure the consistency and the security and all that stuff is great. But at the same time, and this is just me looking at glass half full, now you get to do, like, you're forced to do it. It's not comfortable. It feels bad, but you get to do different things that you might not have had the opportunity to do if you had stayed there and retired, 50 years in the business. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I'm talking the business in general and on air, broadcasting on air. There are very few of us that get to pick our point of exit.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to understand that. Now, that doesn't make it any easier to take, but at some point you have to gain the perspective that saying, don't be sad it's over, be thankful that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely, I've gone places and done things and,
my goodness,
spent my entire life living this dream. Was I ready for a lot of the more higher profile parts of that to disappear? No, but what right do I have to complain?
No, mm-hmm.
I don't,
Oh.
and if some other things that you're trying to chip away at don't happen to come about, I'm going to be the best damn Walmart greeter you ever saw.
And get to punch in and punch out and not have to worry about it. I know. I always say no one's going to feel sorry for me. I just got to pull up my big girl boots. And I've said many times, like, yes, when one door closes and the next one will open, but it's really freaking dark in that room until that door opens.
Yeah.
So that's the end of that motto or statement. And then, you know what, so you leave ESPN, but then they bring you back, but then you get the call to do, how did the timeline work? I think I had the timeline written down here. You got called in 2020 to be the IndyCar voice, but it was put on hold because of COVID. So then you had to wait another year.
Yeah. So life's about the trail that you leave behind, right? The people that you meet, the connections you make, and your reputation, and the trail that I left behind at ESPN, I think was a good one. And so the guy that we used to work for at ESPN had been hired by Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And when Roger Penske took over the Speedway, the charge was, we want to upgrade what we're doing. And he called me up and said, what are you doing in May? I know the answer. You're coming to work for me. So that was supposed to be for the 2020 Indianapolis 500. And then this little COVID thing hits, right? And, I don't know about you, but I didn't work a day for 8 months at the beginning of 2020.
We were doing shows out of my house. We were doing Race Hub out of my house. So we were working. And I did the whole NFL season. Remember, like, we had no one in the stands. I did the entire NFL season.
By the fall.
Yeah.
So Memorial Day, they won't let them have the Indy 500. So now they're going to have it in August. And they're going to have, like, the friends and family plan. So you got this stadium that seats 200 something thousand and there's going to be nobody there. So they said to me, there's not really a reason for us to bring you out here to talk to no one. So let's start next May. So,
were you under contract at that point? Like, did you know it was going to happen, or was that one of those things?
No, I knew it was going to happen, and it did happen in May of 2021. But it's like, okay, as if trying to find out what the next part of the deal was in life wasn't hard enough. Now nobody's working and there's nothing happening, and I'm
sitting around having cocktails at noon.
Like a lot of people, you talk about a change of pace in life, right? From having your foot on the floor and going 100 miles an hour, airport to airport and all that, to, okay, I don't think I left home for 7 months.
Yeah.
And I can remember, my wife, Pam, I can remember one time Pam looking at me and saying, hey, this is a lot of Allen. And me looking
Go
at
for
her,
a damn walk, Alan.
and me looking
Get
at
out
her
of the
and
house.
saying, hey, this is a lot of Pam. This isn't what, we're used to. And it was a big adjustment, for us and for a lot of people. So that was a very interesting period.
It was, I know that there was so much pain during that time, but I was on a hamster wheel before that happened that I could not get off of. And I think that I probably would have burned out if I didn't have a little bit of that break. It was, it was very, I mean, it was a lot. I had small kids who were crying every night because I was gone a lot, and I would come home from work and I was tired. So I know that there was a lot of pain, and I have a really hard time kind of like balancing that, my experience with the experience of so many other people. But I know that I would have probably burned out if I had not had that little break in my career and in life and in all that stuff. The Indy 500 this year, I'm going to give Fox a lot of credit, because I think when a new broadcast partner comes in, we saw it with Amazon and in NASCAR, there's a brand new energy. It's a brand new feeling. And I know the Indy 500 probably doesn't need that. It looks spectacular, by the way. I've been to Brickyard many times, and I've never been to the Indy 500. I have got to get out there.
Yes.
How do you, like, where does that, you've worked so many events, right? Like, you've done so many great things. Daytona, I mean, everything. Where is that on that list?
Indy is special. Indy is different. So when ABC came to me and said, hey, we want you to start doing the Indy 500. I was doing all the NASCAR stuff. They had other people that were doing the IndyCar, and they said, we want you to do our IndyCar stuff. And I thought to myself, okay, I've done, I don't know how many Brickyard 400s from this racetrack already.
Yeah. It's
the same booth. It's the same speedway. I know where the credential office is. The same hotel, the whole thing.
Jamie Little's right there.
And yep. And then I got there, and it was totally different. The first Indy 500 I ever saw, I called on national television, and it's totally different. The energy, the feel. There's something about Indianapolis and in May. Everyone in the city, everyone in the state has a personal connection to that race.
Yeah.
I don't care whether it's, the barista handing you your iced coffee in the morning on the way to the racetrack.
I never thought of that.
They see the credential hanging around your neck, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going Friday to Carb Day. Yeah, we go every year. I don't go to the race because, but I used to, when I was a kid, my grandfather used to take me to, time trials. Everybody has a story. And so the level of passion and commitment and involvement and the energy that those people bring to that race is amazing. And it didn't take long for me to get absolutely, look, Indy 500, when I was a kid, was one of the first events that made me want to do what I do now. Right. That telecast. I can remember being a kid in elementary school, and there was this little paperback, I'm a little older than you, but Brock Yates wrote this book, 30 Days in May, the story of the Indianapolis 500. And I dog-eared this thing.
Yeah.
And that was probably like 8 years old. So just to get to Indy for the Brickyards so now to be involved in the Indianapolis 500 and to be, think about what it's like when they're getting that whole pre-race thing going, and you're the one, and it's a whole thing to get that time timed right in the, the Purdue marching band.
I want to start crying right now. You're getting like
back home again in Indiana, and the national anthem, everything's gone down to the second, and it's so awesome to be in the middle of that and help them pull that off in such a way that 300,000 people are on their feet screaming.
How many times do you practice the names to make sure you get it right?
So Saturday mornings, before the race, we're there at 7 a.m. And probably before 8 a.m., we've rehearsed driver introductions 4 times.
I believe it.
Just for the house. They've got stand-ins, they've got, And then later in the afternoon, they take a break for lunch. We go to the public drivers meeting where I introduce the drivers. Then we come back after lunch and we do a full dress rehearsal with the television network. Wow. So literally at 2 p.m. is 11 a.m. Clock starts go. TV starts its live dress rehearsal. We start a live rehearsal of the pre-race from 11 a.m. till green flag at 12:45.
Wow.
And there's times because television's coming in and out of the broadcast, and literally there's a practice flyover. And
Wow.
right down to the second.
I had no idea.
And then you stop and you go back and you think about things you need to clean up and, the timing of it. And it's just an awesome production to be involved in. And then all those people leave the booth and now it's time to call the race.
Were there any names this year that you were like, maybe no?
And don't forget, by the time you get to that moment,
That's right.
You've been with these guys all month.
Yeah.
I've probably introduced each one of them individually 20 times by then. And you know them already. So that
my first hit for the Hornets, my first open, right? The sideline report, I had to talk about Tijan Salon.
Yeah.
I was like, please don't get this wrong. And then of course, by the end of the year, just, or even a week later, you're just like, whatever. But he, rookie coming in, I'm like, please, if you can do one thing, nail this name, please. The first thing that you're doing, you almost it's those moments that you're like, oh gosh, you have it phonetically in your head, but at the same time, you're like, you could mess it up. It's very easy.
The one that's more challenging than that is when they do the pit stop competition on Carb Day on Friday. So now, you're going around to all these teams and you're okay. Tell me how you pronounce your name. Not how your PR person says, but tell me how you pronounce your name because it's their moment in the spotlight and you don't want to screw it up.
Yeah, it's the Marcus Mariota thing, right? Where I think Joe Test was saying Mariota because that's how he said he would say it. And then people were giving him a hard time for it. And somebody and this always happens. Someone in the media center says, hey, how do you want your name pronounced? And they're like, oh, I don't care. Mariota's fine. And you're like, wait a minute. No, that's not how you told me.
Tennis is famous for that. So when I first started doing some of the tennis Grand Slams, one of the British guys that covers tennis every week, like on the ATP World Tour, like he is the authority. Great guy, name's Nick Lester, and he's telling me a story. He said, "Well, this girl Maria out here, tall blonde girl, yeah." He said, "Well, in Russia, her name is actually pronounced Sharapova." But you Americans started calling it Sharapova.
Oh, wonderful.
And so at one point, someone asked her, how do you want your name pronounced? And she said, go with the American one.
Okay.
So it's Novak. In Eastern Europe, that's Djokovic.
Yep.
But in America, it became Djokovic. Which ones? And the worst thing in the world is two people calling a tennis match together, each pronouncing the name differently.
Yeah, that's a little behind the scenes of television where everybody definitely has to get on the same page about how you're going to pronounce it so you don't make your colleague look silly. That's another reason why you're the best, Allen. Another reason why I think you're the best, and we'll wrap up here, is that I watched a ton of podcasts that you were on. You're not on a lot, but I did find some. And you're always so self-deprecating. Like you're always just so humble when it comes to people asking you about your career and how long you've been going. And something that I say a lot, I heard you say back in the day, was just trying to keep a job. And I actually say that a lot of times when people talk to me about kind of continuing on with my career. And when I say that, I always think of you every single time. And so, I think one of the things I'm most proud of in my career is the ability to kind of keep on keeping on. And one of the main people that have inspired me to do that is certainly you. So I appreciate that so much.
That's overly generous of you.
It's not though.
Because the hard work you put in and the grind that most people don't see equals the results you do see.
But to have people who are there for you in your corner, who teach you how to do it the right way. There we are in 2007. Wow, look at babies, man. Oh, that was was it Clint Boyer that won that championship, I think?
Yes. Yeah. That was in Orlando, I think, that show we did. And you were so wound up about this show.
Always.
Because that's the first time you've done it, right?
Always. I'm always wound up because I'm always that's just my style. I am full throttle. I don't know any other way to do it. Yeah. Everything is, have to have my notes. I have to be like this. I have to. Yeah.
It is fun. I think one of the things that's made me successful is the next show is always the most important one, right? So you get done with the show, you pick it apart for about 2 seconds. Okay, I could have done those things better, and you go on to the next and get ready for the next, right? And it's also been one of the flaws of my life is maybe not taking the time at the moment to appreciate just the good fortune to be able to do this for so many years. Wimbledon, for an example, a little overwhelming. You're working at Wimbledon for the first time, and I'm doing basically tennis red zone. I'm studio hosting, and we're popping back and forth between all these different courts. So I got 256 players. I got to know their names, and and Wimbledon comes and goes, and then you stop and you say, "Wow, that was
Look
cool."
at what I just did. Yeah,
I think, and you're on to the next. So stopping to appreciate the journey is something that that maybe a little age has given me an opportunity to do. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's been a hell of a ride.
I don't think you get to this point if you stop and enjoy the journey. I think the drive and the continue to get better and not live in the moment. I think that that's what gets people to longevity. You hear drivers say it, you hear athletes say it, that they don't fully enjoy it because they're on to the next one. They're never happy with what they do until you get to an age where you kind of reflect and you go, huh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did that. Wow.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to bring Kelly Hambleton in because this is the part of the show that, and we're going to do this for TV people really only because Allen, when we go on shoots and interviews, the first thing that you do when you finish the interview is you look at your producer and you say, what did I miss?
What did I miss?
What I missed? What I missed?
She didn't miss much. But what I just had a couple of thoughts, and now, and obviously I worked with you for a long time, so I have my own agendas in some of these questions. But first thing I'm curious to ask you, because you always had this, you had this vibe, right? Race to race and event to event. But then the special ones, you were so good at bringing the feeling of the special event to the broadcast. What are some of the things that you had to do to make sure that you were able to do that? It wasn't just another Martinsville race. It was now, the Indy 500, or it's not just, a lead up to the US Open, it's Wimbledon. Like, what were some of the things that you did to make sure that you were bringing those feelings to the broadcast?
Yeah, we had a saying that we always used, right? Sense of place, right? So what makes this special? What can I see that you can't because I'm here and you're not? That I can draw you in with and make you understand, why this place is so special. I think just trying to have a bigger picture view of the event and make sure you find some things to bring that through to people. You mentioned Martinsville. Well, what makes Martinsville special? It's small. The town is small, right? And how small is it? Well, so I think just trying to have an understanding of a sense of place, what makes this. So why I think NASCAR took off in the early 80s was ESPN started showing all these races from all these small towns, right? And there was something about seeing a race at North Wilkesboro or some of these other places that made me, sitting in Rhode Island, where I grew up, say, I got to check that out. That. What would make you say, I got to check that out?
I love that. I just wrote that down, by the way, because I'm getting ready to go back on, the pre-race sense of place, because these are a lot of places that I've been to before. So
yeah. How
do you make that different?
Yeah.
Great question, Miss Kel.
Hey, yeah, and then just a quick one of our little group, that 2007 group. What was the biggest challenge that you had as far as these new people working? Like, who was the person that maybe you really had to help bring along?
I think because I'd been through it before at NBC, it gave me a good perspective on it. So when NBC came into NASCAR, there were a lot of people from NBC that had never done a NASCAR race before. And they hired a lot of great people to help them along the way. But, helping teach them the sport. I worked with a guy years ago. We did this show like 1995 for ESPN. It was called NASCAR Today, the first version of it. It was two of us, Dave Despain and me. live for 30 minutes on RF packs, on remote microphones. And I remember the first time I sat with Dave, and I had known Dave casually, but the first time I sat with him, he said, "You know NASCAR, I know television. You tell me what we need to talk about, and I'll tell you how we need to show it."
Great.
So
team.
carrying that philosophy forward, here we go with ESPN, and we get all these young people who haven't really done NASCAR before, but they're smart and they're bright and they're hardworking and they're going to get it right. And sometimes you just need to share a little information with them to help them get it right. You know, remember we started this thing on Sunday mornings where I would go into the production truck and we'd look at all the pieces of tape that we had set up, you know, and sometimes we'd adjust a couple of them here or there, you know, but that all came out of understanding, you know, Tuesday, we give you this direction and you go off and you run with it. And how can I help you tune that up just a little bit without making you say, no, that's not right? Because it probably was right, but maybe it just needed a little cleaning up to help tell the story we wanted to clean up. That was it, you know? I mean, and that was the fun of it.
That was nerve-wracking for me, by the way, when we did that.
But think about how that changed the dynamic of our group, right? And where some of those people are now.
Yeah. I mean, directing the Indy 500, right? I mean,
you know, you'd go from the tape room to the graphics room and look at everything. And that hour you would take out of your Sunday morning, I feel like was invaluable to the relationship with the crew and making them have ownership in what was going on in the air, that they were contributing to the success of our telecast and telling the story the right way. They had my support. I had their support. And those times with those people, I'm very proud of. I'm proud of the way we all went about it together.
I remember hearing Coach K say that one time. It's a moment in time. I was covering a Syracuse-Duke game. The first time that Duke was playing at Syracuse at the Carrier Dome, there was 39,000 people. And Coach K said to me, "This is a moment in time." And that is exactly what our time at ESPN was. It was a moment in time that we can never, there's no way we could ever duplicate it. And it was just such a, like I said, painfully beautiful. Allen, I feel like I could have you on. I feel like I didn't talk about anything from your, you know, how you got started, but people, there's plenty of that out there. Lots and lots of stuff that we could catch up on, but you're awesome. I appreciate you taking 45 minutes or whatever out of your day to kick off the Spake Up podcast.
I'm very honored that you'd call me to be first.
Yes.
And I've told you this before many times privately, but I'll say it here as well. Very proud of you.
Thanks.
And what you do and who you are.
Thanks.
Keep at it.
I know you are. There are people that say that you go, okay. And then there are people that say that you absolutely believe them. And I know you are. So thank you for always being there. And I'll let you know when this posts.
See you at Indy.
Okay. Oh yes. Bye. Dinner. St. Elmo's. Let's do it.
All right. See ya.
Okay, bye. All right. So I think I'm going to bring Kelly back on right now because I want to end this show. I love Allen. That was such a great conversation. That was good to see him, right, Kel?
It was great to see Allen.
Yeah.
He was such a great leader. Like it was, I know you guys touched on it, but that team was very special. And it's one of the moments in, my 20 plus TV career that I've never felt that close to a group of people before. And I thought we did great television.
Totally. And he's such a pro. I mean, listen to him. You know how hard it is. Like everyone asks me about moving from NFL or, NBA or whatever. I mean, did you hear him say he has to call the red zone for Wimbledon?
Yeah. Yeah.
A NASCAR guy?
That's crazy. But he was good at everything. I mean, he studied. That was why I said, I would get nervous when he'd come in the tape room and look at the elements and stuff, because I was I did not want to let him down. Because I knew how hard he worked and how much he cared about the shows and how much he cared about us. And I just never wanted to do anything that was not going to be up to his standards. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was this lovely, the strength that he brought all of us. And I don't know who's out there looking for a play-by-play person, but anyone who's out there looking for a play-by-play person, he's just such a joy to work with and such a consummate professional.
I forgot to ask him if he has photographic memory, because I ask a lot of the great play-by-play guys, I believe, almost every single one of them has photographic memory. And I feel like I've asked a lot of those guys that. I didn't ask him that. Maybe I'll follow up. Before we go, this is going to be like, I'll keep you on for this. Like, again, we're moving through this. This is the first podcast, so we're kind of trying to figure things out, how we're going to do this. But I do like the idea of having Kelly kind of join us and ask a question or tell us what I missed, because that is what we do in the TV world. But I'll tell you a story before we go. I'm a pretty proud mom. I've got two 15-year-old boys, as you guys know, 15 and a half. And that's a really interesting age. When I was 15, I think I was sleeping till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, not doing much with my life, probably staying out way too late and doing bad things. And both of my kids now officially have jobs. So my son Brady, thank you. So my son Brady actually has been sleeping a little bit too much, waking him up at 11:30. And I've been sort of on his butt to get up and go downtown, Davidson, which is where we live, and to get a job. And so he went into this place like 5 times, Kelly. Like he went in, he filled out the application. They're like, we'll call you. He goes in again. We haven't moved through the applications yet. We'll call you. And I must have brought him down there 4 or 5 times. So he walks in yesterday and I bring him down and he's in there for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, oh, this is good. And he comes out and he's like, I got it. And I can't tell you, as a mom, you know, it's those moments where you see your child like really proud and really excited, and you know that they're going to do something that's really going to help them grow. And I think a lot of parents say, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do when my kids go to high school. I don't know what I'm going to do when my kids are driving. I don't want to, when they leave. What I've realized is that every single one of those like fearful, huge milestones that you're so afraid of when they're little, they are so ready for it. And it's almost like as a mom, you're like, thank goodness this is happening, because they're ready for that next step. They're ready to get a job. They're ready to drive and have a little bit of freedom. They're ready to go to high school. They're ready to go to college. And it's more of like your selfish, I don't know, hurt and missing them that I think kind of like holds you back emotionally. So I'm really proud of both of my boys. They've got jobs, and I think both of these jobs could ride these jobs to college. And it's downtown Davidson, so they could ride their bikes there. So they have definite freedom to do that. So I'm really proud. And I had to say that because I'm sure that there are a lot of moms out there, dads out there who have 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds, and you're kind of going, is now the time to get a job? And yeah, they got them. So my first job was when I was 14. I changed my birth certificate to 15 so that I could bag groceries at Winn-Dixie. Yeah. We didn't have any money growing up, Kelly. Zero money, like nothing. So I had to work.
Yeah.
What was your first job?
I was a camp counselor. I had 5-year-old boys, a day camp. It was called Breezy Point Day Camp. And I was taking 5-year-old boys out and walking them around. Oh yeah, it was paid. Oh, it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was. I think I got French fries thrown in too. So
yeah, God bless camp counselors. God bless teachers, especially of smaller children and maybe even high school kids. But yeah, that's awesome. That was in Philadelphia.
It was outside of Philadelphia. It still exists, I believe. So yeah.
Mine was at the Winn-Dixie in Sunrise, right by my house, right by Piper High School. Yep. Changed because back then you could just like change your birth certificate. You just like, you change the whatever. Yeah, it was very easy.
You do a lot back then. It was a lot easier back then.
A lot easier. You could get away with a lot more back then, ladies and gentlemen, kids of all ages. All right, that's it. Number 1, we're right at an hour. So I guess that's kind of the sweet spot for these podcasts. Let me know, everybody, please subscribe. We are once again moving through this. So we're going to have it posted on Spotify and Apple and all kinds of different places. It may take us a little bit to kind of get up to speed, but we're going to make it happen. Allen Bestwick was awesome. Next week, Kurt Busch. Yes. He's going to be right here in studio too. I'm excited. So I'm really excited to talk to Kurt. We caught up recently and had some conversations about, things that happened on air and off air in the past. And it was really good. And I really enjoyed spending time with him. And I'm really, really, really excited to catch up with him. So, all right, everybody. Number 1, Spake Up podcast in the books. Kelly, get home safely. All right.
I'll be there soon.
Thank you, Spencer. Bye, everybody. See you next week.